moving on to the market update, I want to hop around. Let's start with Paul. I want to see, we talked about it in the last video. People are still, in my opinion, I'm a dealer. I'm stocking a lot of these pieces and I'm not holding them. The green Daytona and the platinum Daytona. Where do you see this market? Where do you see it going? Have you seen them selling? Buyers are calling me every day asking if I'm buying, asking if I'm selling them for it. It just kind of, right now it just tends to be this gray space that people don't really know. What do you think?
I think the platinum Daytona is pretty much is probably a little bit more sold in the respect that everyone was expecting that green dial Daytona in particular to be discontinued. I know they was expecting it maybe with the Plat as well, but the green dial here in the UK at least is perhaps a little bit more unsold, but prices are still moving up. And when I look at the prices right now of the stainless steel models that are moving up almost by the day, I mean, guys, I don't buy and sell anymore, so I haven't got my finger on the day-to-day pulse of the watch prices. And when I look from one week to the next, this stuff is still moving up every week, and it's just mind-boggling. I mean, you've got to ask yourself, when and where will it end? I mean, they say there's an end to everything, but when was the last time the Rolex market crashed? I don't remember it. Do you?
Never.
So never. Exactly, Roman. Never. So my money for me. When you was showing off the APs etc. earlier, when I was dealing, I wasn't really much of a gambler. I had big balls, but it was always with the right brand, and that brand for me was Rolex, and it served me well for many decades. I'm going off the brand, as in the company. The watches, I'm still in love with the watches. Where the market's going, I can only see it moving forward. I think depending on the economies, your economy might be a bit different to ours. Certainly here in the UK, the economy is super strong right now. I don't see anything bad happening. I don't see anything going backwards. Once everyone's spent the money that they haven't spent in the last year or so on other things, it might change a little bit. But I still think it's a very healthy place to be and a healthy business to be in.
All right. I appreciate that, Paul. Okay, I want to hop over to give you guys a kind of an order. I want to hop over to Adrian and talk about Richard Mille. Prices are just all over the place. This market. And then I want to ask Marco about some vintage stuff. And then Vadim, I want to hop over to you and see what you're seeing in the wholesale group. So Adrian, what's going on with Richard Mille?
Just as we discussed last time, prices just keep climbing. But it seems to be prices are climbing more on current production goods because they're newer releases and they just simply didn't make as many as the previous generation releases. So anything basically into no shape that's on the current price list goes up weekly. And dealers adjust their prices, it seems to be almost with inflation. So if somebody had a watch a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and you need it on the chats for somebody else and you contact them again, 9 out of 10 times it is higher than the last time they quoted you.
Right. Throw out some, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, throw out some popular models. Everybody wants an 1103. Everyone wants the McLaren, the Bubba Watson. Throw some of those out there. What are prices like just from a month ago, 2 months ago?
Well, I'll give you an example of the 6702s. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. It's the thin case NTPT models.
It was like 365 at the show a month ago, right?
Here's a prime example. We got one for a mutual customer of ours. We're not going to mention.
Shout out to Sammy.
So we confirmed the watch, and this is we confirmed the watch for $300,000. There's a 2019 example. Now, this is something I would have never done for a client that we didn't know unless there was a deposit. But I figured, you know what? It's a little bit above market than what I would be willing to pay to stock. But worst case scenario, I'll get my money out of it or make a profit. We got the watch. We couldn't sell it for the money that we wanted, which we were trying to get like $325,000 on a $300,000 investment. And we finally sold the watch for $310,000 to get some capital back, reinvest it. And now I needed another one yesterday. So it's a funny thing. Nobody wanted to pay $325 or above to find the watch, but then when I have to go out and look for it, it's about 15% over that. So it's a very funny game. The Richard Mille game is you have the price, you have the inventory, you control the market. You ask whatever you want because it's not a stainless steel ceramic Daytona where there's hundreds of thousands out there and then everybody's in competition for that small piece of the pie. So that's the Richard Mille market in a nutshell. When you have the merchandise, you control the prices.
I've always said to Adrian and a lot of the deals, and I've said this to you, Anthony, numerous times, and Eric, I said, you know, to sell big stuff, and by big stuff, I mean expensive stuff, right? Let's define that as 200,000 plus, right? In order to be able to be successful in selling that stuff, you have to have that stuff. You're not gonna get rich, or you're not gonna be able to sell a minute repeater Patek or a Richard Mille tourbillon or anything of that nature without owning it, which is why 90% of the Richard Mille, I would say 90% of our Richard Mille sales came from pieces that we've committed to, we've bought. Now, granted, we may have bought it and sold it in a matter of, you know, minutes or days or whatever it might be. But nevertheless, the only way to be successful, as Adrian said, is to hold that particular stock. That's when you'll make the right margins, and that's when you're actually going to be able to make that sale. Now, Anthony, before we move on, let's talk charity a little bit. We discussed this prior to the show.
We did. Okay. Roman, I talked to you. I've already mentioned mine. So in another video, I'll talk about it after. But we were talking before the show started, and you've got a charity that you are actually on the board of a company. So I want you to go into the details, tell people what it is, what it benefits, and how they can contribute.
One of the things in general about charity, Eric, where are you going?
Your lifesaver. Sorry, I had to open up the front door real quick.
He heard about charity.
I said,
They're all a con. They're all a con.
Anyway,
No,
Charity begins at home.
so here's what I'll tell you about charity. I've numerous of my videos, I talk to people about giving back to charity. I've done a few videos where I was part of a charity event. I showed some of the charity events that I was in. But charity is not something you go out there and talk about and say, I give, right? This is not something you put out there. But once in a blue moon, and this is Anthony's word when we spoke earlier, you know, social media not only allows you a reach to be able to attain more clients, to make more sales, to make your business more successful, to make yourself more popular, it also gives you the reach to do a little bit of good. I'm proud to say that I'm actually, I'm a board member of a company called Watches for Good, a company that was opened up about a year ago. We're talking about a company that's 100% nonprofit, right? It was started by a friend and / client of mine whom I met about a year ago, a gentleman by the name of Nino. And you can guys go to watchesforgood.org. Him and about 800 of his buddies that are badass into watches, really, really into watches, you know, decided, you know what, we want to do something good, but it took a different approach. And what I like about this organization, which is why I chose to be on the board of that organization, is the fact that there's zero costs, meaning that nobody's getting paid. There's no, even if we have to ship out a box somebody with a gift, we pay for it. There's nothing comes out of the charity money, right? Because everyone that's part of that organization is well off enough to where they don't need to take a salary, anything like that, much like bigger organizations out there, right? And what I liked about it is it was watch related, and it wasn't really specifically related to any causes. I'm a big advocate for cancer charities. It's something that hits close to home. I'm a big advocate for charities that help out children, you know, those that are not privileged children, et cetera, right? But this organization was opened up to deal with issues as they come along real live time, right? One of the first things that Watches for Good did was went out in California and did a big deal with food. Literally went out and bought tons and tons of food from Costco and brought it to homes that were affected by COVID, that couldn't get out, couldn't work, and that would have a meal on their table. And right now, one of the issues that we're facing is a humongous crisis in India. I'm sure you guys have all seen the news of what's going on over there. We're talking about a country with a population of 1.3 billion people in the size of and they're a third the size of the United States that has 300 million people, right? And what's happening is that, look, those that are well off enough, they get the fancy hospitals and they have the fancy equipment, right? The lower income areas, they don't have the fancy hospitals and they don't have enough equipment. And I will tell you like this. So this thing, we're actually going out there and we're buying, I'll tell you exactly what these things are called. Hold on. I always forget the name of this piece of equipment, but I had it in my notes, so I'm going to tell you guys. Let's see. We're buying It's basically the campaign we're calling is Oxygen for India, right? It's on the website again, watchthisforgood.org. Anthony will link that in the comments. He'll also link that in what do you call it? In the description of the video. So what we're buying is we're buying oxygen concentrators. Each one of them costs at a cost of about $1,500 a piece. We're going to take care of the logistics. We're going to send them all down to India. We're going to bypass all the bureaucracy. It's going to go directly to low-income areas and their hospitals that are physically missing these machines, which is a simple machine that can save somebody's life. So if you guys are willing to help, by all means, we're looking to raise about 100 grand to buy these things. And long story short, we'll link the stuff below. If you guys want to be involved, no pressure. I don't care if you give $5, if you give $100 or $1,000. I expect all you to give, and a significant amount, by the way, because we're doing this next week, literally. I'm going to drive down to New York with this company that makes these things with Nina, who's going to come down from Indianapolis. And we're going to drive down there. We're going to physically make sure these things get on the truck, get on the pallets, and they go out to India. And I'm hoping to work with FedEx to help us out to expedite the process because these things are heavy.
All right. Well, thank you, Roman. What we'll do, put a link in the description. I'll also pin a link in the comment reminding people about these. And for those of you that maybe are tuning in, didn't see our last video or make it to the end of my last video, Darby is my videographer. He's my editor. He works 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, producing the shows that have brought you guys to this. He is behind the camera right now, taking care into this. He grew up with a mentor, a guy named Elijah. Elijah, they've been friends for 20 years. It got him into skateboarding, got him into videography, kind of molded him to become today, which is my lead employee, I would say. He's the one that makes all this possible for us. So Elijah's in need of a kidney. He set up a GoFundMe. We promoted the video out there. Again, we're going to keep on promoting this. He wants to raise $150,000, but that's just to maybe cover the average cost. It's not a guarantee that he gets it. So I think we should go above and beyond. Hey, oh, calm down a little bit. Sorry, I got people in my store. It's loud back here. I think we can raise more than that because it's not just the cost of the kidney. It's the time off of work. It's the time in recovery. It's all those things that go into post-surgery. So I think we can raise $300,000 for this kid. And like I said before, the power of social media is not the followers. It's not the subscribers. It's not the engagement, the comments. It's not being recognized. It's none of that. It's what we can actually do with it for a better good. So guys, I'm going to put that in the description also, and I'm going to keep pushing it till we get to that number. So there's that. So we'll make sure we stay on top of that, Roman. Back to the market up. I want to we'll talk over to get some quick summaries. What are you seeing in the vintage market? You just got back from buying a few vintage pieces. What's going on?
Vintage has actually been picking up slightly since the last time we talked. I'm moving a few 6263s. One's a full set. Those are starting to creep into the low hundreds, but creeping more towards the mid hundreds. You know,
are you seeing vintage buyers?
I'm seeing a lot of
people were like afraid to buy.
They're not afraid to buy. They're just more like they're not buying pieces that are like questionable or that have been altered or over polished or just not as sharp. Projects essentially are out right now.
Okay.
But I am starting to get a lot of requests lately for manual wind Daytonas. I'm working with a few people on some Paul Newmans. So it's definitely an exciting week for manual wind Daytonas.
Are you guys, Eric or Roman? Have y'all been moving any vintage stuff? Or what are y'all seeing?
I'll tell you like this: majority of the vintage stuff that is moved here, it's moved behind the scenes. With vintage watches, it's like my buddy Adam said from Menta Watches, it's a cloak and dagger game, right? You don't want to announce something that's really special, super clean, something that maybe one off on the market. You don't want to throw it out there and show the world because all of a sudden it loses its appeal. But to piggyback on what Marco said, the clean stuff, the super nice stuff, the super pristine stuff, I should say, right? And we can talk about this for hours defining that. That's the stuff that's been moving and moving well. I'm also seeing a lot of high ticket items moving. Both me and Adam are working on closing a $750,000 vintage watch for this week. Again, I can't mention what it is. Hopefully it'll be closed by next week. I'm currently working on a $2.2 million Patek to close that. So some of the higher end stuff is moving, and it's moving at a better pace due to the fact that auctions are breaking records. You have people with excess income. They want to park their money somewhere safe. And I've always said that even though watches are not an investment, I think a vintage watch is a good place to park your money. And listen, some people just have more money than others, and some will park it in a $20,000 vintage watch, which has a lot of upside. But a lot of people out there that are really well off, they're choosing to park their money in something that's unique, that no one else has in the most pristine condition. This is probably a good example, right? This POW watch. And with that said, I am seeing an uptick in the higher echelon of vintage game over the last few months.
Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is let's jump outside of the big brands, Rolex, Patek, AP, and Richard Mille. We know everybody wants those. They're hype. They're hot. They're hard to get. They trade for crazy value. But you know, when everyone's chasing the hype piece, you start to lose sight of high quality pieces by smaller brands or even independent. One of my favorites, you guys have seen me pick this. I've thrown it all over social media. Vacheron. This is the overseas perpetual calendar, blue dial. I think personally, Vacheron is the next, I don't even know what you call it, but you know, you've got white ceramic Daytonas trading for triple retail, but you can buy this at, well, not this specific one, but most of the overseas you can buy at or below retail. Yeah. I think this is in the next year, and I give it just a year. You're going to see overseas start trading above retail. You're going to start seeing people real. Yeah,
I bought two today over
blue dial is or above.
Well, two today.
45
is going nuts. I mean, I can't find them.
Yeah,
I did a whole thing. I did a whole thing on Vacheron, and there's a video where I talk about some of the issues that I felt Vacheron was facing as a company. Mind you, we're talking about the longest continuously running company in the world of horology. We're talking about one of the Holy Trinity. We're talking about a brand that's up there in their own right. So I think that I'm going to correct you a little bit, Anthony. I'm not going to talk about small. You can't call this a smaller brand. We can just call it that's not as much in the limelight. And one of the things they have been doing, they're not stupid. They're catching on to the game. They cut dealer cost on all overseas to 25% off retail. Regular Vacheron line is minus 45 to a dealer. Now they cut all the overseas to minus 25 to a dealer. They drastically cut allocation to them, and they're trying to sell most of them out of the boutique. Case in point, last 2 years, it resulted in at least the blue dial overseas all to trade over retail. The piece that you're wearing is an allocation piece today. To buy that watch, you're going to wait probably a year if you were to go into a boutique. There's now a year waiting list. The skeleton is probably even more. And they're following the footsteps of everyone else. Mainly, again, I've always given credit to one man, and that's Francois, the CEO of Audemars Piguet. He's the one that started the whole boutique thing. He's the one that made AP what it is today, where pretty much every good AP trades are over list, and you can't get them, have to wait. Vacheron is following in his footsteps. With that said, you're going to see Vacheron, Long & Son, a lot of the other Richemont groups out there. You're going to see every single brand follow suit, because I've told you guys before, like, oh, this one looks like this one, and that one looks like this one. You don't know who copied who. But when something works in an industry, and I don't care if it's a watch industry or the concrete industry, everybody that's playing catch up, they're going to follow in the footsteps. They're not going to reinvent the wheel. So to answer your question, yes, you are correct, Anthony. You're going to see Vacheron. And what happens initially, it's the hot models, it's the overseas. Once the overseas become unattainable, what happens? The next things below it are going to start going up. Look what happened with Rolex, right? Daytona was it. The one watch that consistently traded over list. Then what happened? Skydweller followed suit, right? New model, it stayed over list. I thought it was going to come down. And then when the hype continued and the shortage of merchandise, now you have red dial OPs trading at $14,000.
How about Air Kings?
Or Air Kings going over list. Stuff that you could always get 25, 30% off and walk into any boutique. So you made a statement that will apply to Vacheron, and it will eventually apply to all the other brands out there going forward. And reason being is because as long as this hot watch market continues and the brands are going to continually screwing the authorized dealer and getting rid of them and going boutique route and putting people on waiting lists, you're going to see this happen with Vacheron, and you're going to see it happen across all the major brands out there, IWC, Jaeger, Panerai,
Hey,
provided they
Adrian.
do one thing, and that one thing is cut production. That's all.
Well, what's the go with the Gen 2? Why is the Gen 2 so much cheaper than Gen 3 in the overseas?
Well, because it's an older watch and people haven't quite caught up to them yet. I've been buying up the older overseas anytime I get a chance to, full sets, complete sets, because guess what? As you see the modern stuff go up, listen, the Royal Oak 5402, the very first one I owned, the A serial, the first one from 1972, Gerald Genta. I've owned that watch for 20 grand, even under. I sold one, I bought one for 40, sold it. 50, sold it. 65, sold it. Now it's at 100.
Well, look at
But it's not because all of a sudden everybody became a huge Genta fan and they wanted the Royal Oak. It's because look at what the modern Royal Oaks are doing. It's limelight, right, Archie? As long as the limelight is on you, right, no matter what you put out there, something is going to be better than the other, but everything overall is going to move up.
So who's going to do this best over the next 24 months, do you think, Roman?
Rolex.
Well, Rolex. I mean,
Richard Mille and Rolex.
No, I mean,
you know my favorite thing. You know the favorite thing that you said, Paul, in one of the, we did a couple of videos. One of the videos you said to me, my favorite thing you ever said is in the UK, if you walk down the street, you pick up a rock and you throw it, odds are you'll hit a Rolex. I think that no longer stands just for the UK. I think that stands true for the entire world. You know, I remember that very well when you said that. Like, I'm going to use that, and yeah, I just got a chance to use that.
You ever been to Hong Kong?
You ever been to Hong Kong? I mean, seriously.
You
You don't have to throw. You could just spit.
Yeah.
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 Outside of the obvious. So I was talking about Langer, Vacheron, Breguet, etc. So forgetting Rolex, AP, who's going to do the best? Who's going to do this best?
It's going to be Lunga, and I know this firsthand. And I kind of let the cat out of the bag on the last watches and whiskey that me and Adrian did, where I laid out like 30 or 40 Lungas on a table, and I talked about them. They're going to be the next thing, and quick and easy, not to repeat my video. They went from a production of reportedly 5,000 pieces a year, which in reality was more like 6 special editions and things of that nature. They cut it down to $2,500. And again, to go back to what I said, big badass Richmond group looking around saying, wait a minute, we're being slaughtered by AP. We're being slaughtered by Richard Mille. We're being slaughtered by, well, forget Rolex. It doesn't count really. Paddock. Why can't we do the same thing? We're the baddest watch group out there, right? So what's going on? So again, they're not reinventing the wheel. They took probably the most qualified brand in terms of production numbers. They sliced production into more than half. You now, if you go into a Lange boutique, you can't buy that work. You have to have history. They're cut out a bunch of authorized dealers. And guess what? Now there's waiting lists. What did they do? The same thing that every other brand did. They made a keystone piece. Their keystone piece was the Odysseus, right? In stainless steel. Oh my God. Lange made a stainless steel watch. Finally, and there's a 1,000,000-year wait list for it, and it trades a triple list.
Sports watch,
right?
Yeah.
They found a keystone piece, followed up with the white gold piece. All of a sudden, what, you know how many Langes I have in my safe right now? Probably 80. And I want more.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to move on to is put off the watch market. Eric, you know, I have to say, I've talked to you a lot outside the cameras and everything, and I don't know if you've released it out or talked about the Cuban link video that you created. I'll just say it. If it hasn't been said, the video that you created that got an absorbent amount of views for a company you're no longer with. You put out another video, and I've never even, after watching that video, it's got, I'm looking at it right now, 1.5 million views in 4 weeks. The production of that video was outstanding. I never in my life cared about Cuban link videos until watching that video. And I was actually just in LA and I met a kid that does a lot of gold stuff, and thinking about your video, it made me like start looking at Cubans. I bought a Cuban bracelet. Dude,
why
how
did you
long
buy
did
it
it
from
take?
Eric, you idiot?
I know. I'm gonna get a necklace from him, and it was an impulse buy, and it was rose gold. I don't know. It was
Bro,
a
he
relationship.
sold you. I saw the video. He sold you. He straight up sold you on that. He sold you. He saw the sucker coming from like a mile away, bro. He's like, you walked in. He said, "Cha-ching, I'm selling him a bracelet."
Well, you know, it was a long journey to make even that second video. The first one I recorded it with a GoPro, and the second one we went in and brought in a actual like cinema quality camera. You know, a $50,000 camera with all the attachments. There's not a lot of space there. The lighting is not amazing. And we didn't have the liberty of setting up all the nice lighting and do everything. So, you know, it was something that I put a lot of work into in the editing, the music, and the whole production. And I was actually very happy with the turnout of how the video came. You know, the views is a plus. For me, just the finished product was amazing. I actually have a couple Cubans here to show you guys. You know, this is something that's very unique, I would say, to Miami. And this is one of those chains that no matter how much time passes, it still is relevant because of its very simple design. It's not overly done. It's very traditional and something different.
Can we talk prices, please? Can we please talk prices? When we do our videos, we talk about market update. Everybody and their mother out there, after you made that video, knowing that I know you, said, hey, how much is that chain? We have no idea what these things go for. So look, you have 18, is it an 18 karat or 14?
These right here are 14 karat.
All right, the one that you made, was that 14?
The one I made was the big kilo was 14 karat. Usually
okay, so 14 karat. So let's start from the fact, if you took that thing on a scale today, you throw it up, how much money is there in gold for 1 kilo chain?
If you were gonna buy that chain, it would probably cost you $45,000 to make. It's about $45 a gram. Now, yeah, you could probably shop around and get it for $41, $39. And I always tell people all the time, look, if you just want to pile as much gold as you want on your neck, then yeah, you could probably shop and get a cheaper deal or an old chain that's been polished 3 or 4 times. Now, if you want, you know, the high-end stuff with the perfect filing and the stuff that just makes your chain look different than everybody else's, you got to pay the top dollar. They're made to order, and it just looks that much nicer. Some people just want gold, and I'm like, that's not for me. Now, if you want something hand-tailored, handmade, I had Nico even hit me up at 12 o'clock at night saying, bro, I just saw your video. I want a freaking chain made. I want one of those Cuban links. And I was like,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He called me, he's like, I'm getting a chain, you know? And
it's like this, you know, listen, I've seen a lot of crap chains. I've seen a lot of good chains. Some of the crappier stuff, you end up with porosity, but you end up with dings, you end up with a lot of crazy stuff. So for a good top quality chain out there, be it a Cuban chain, you're basically, based on what you just told me, you're paying about 25 to 30% over the price of gold.
Yeah. Right now in today's price, the gold kind of made a little bit of a run the last week and a half. You're probably going to be around $45 a gram.
So I have one more question in that regard. How do you protect yourself? Because look, you went out there, you bought a kilo of gold at market price. You know, when gold is on a higher side, which is what it is right now, you're basically taking a big risk, you know, putting about 5 to 10 kilos of gold in your safe at a price, because if the gold goes down, you lose. If the gold goes up, you win.
Look, the way that I do it is that as people put it in order, you know, I do it all separate. As the person puts in the order, yes, I do stockpile gold when it gets cheaper, because what happens is also sometimes as the gold gets more expensive, sometimes you can't find it. And what happens is when it dips, also people don't want to sell the gold, because some of the suppliers that have the raw gold don't want to lose money. But really what I do is when somebody puts an order in today, we keep the price of spot today, and we put the order in today at that price. That's the best way.
Lock in a rate, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we do with foreign transactions.
You know?
So is it safe to say that once, if I came over and I handed you, in order for me to have a 1 kilo Cuban link based on what the video showed, I would potentially have to bring you 1.2 kilos of gold, right? Give or take?
Well, no. What happens is that I'm just putting these chains on, just minus one out, just throw them on there.
Yeah, that's right. Don't break your neck.
I mean, I normally don't wear this, but it's just for the, you know, for the audience. What happens is that to make a kilo chain, you really need an extra 500 grams that the people that make these chains use it as almost like their work gold. So you got to build up a chain that's 1,500 grams to then file off 250 on each side. But those 250s don't go to waste. A lot of people ask me in the video, what happens to those 500 grams? Well, they melt it and they take away the purities on it. They got, you know, certain solutions that kind of clean it up, and they reuse that gold for many other things that they need to use. So no gold goes to waste here. But yes, you need more gold than your actual chain.
Okay.
That's cool. I mean, dude, that video, if you guys haven't seen that video, hop on. We'll put a link to that video also, because again, I watched the entire thing and I've never been interested in Cuban links. So my hat's off to that one. Moving on, let's do, I think we've been at this about 2 hours and 40, or an hour and 40 minutes now. Let's take some questions. Do we have any questions ready from the audience? Roman, does you guys that are paying attention to the channel, do they have any questions they pulled for us?
Nick, is there any questions up?
It's mostly just people chanting about Archie.
If not, well, we get
currently everybody's chanting about Archie. I don't have the YouTube interface in front of me, so I can't see.
I don't either.
I'll pull it.
Okay, but while we pull some questions, have Avi pull like 2 or 3 questions. I know Roman and Adrian, you texted me and said that you got something impressive you want to show us. What is that? I don't even know what that means. That probably sounds dirty, but
Something impressive to win. I think we pretty much showed them everything that's impressive. I mean, if you want me to go down to my vault and pull out impressive shit and show everybody how big my dick is, I don't know.
Reading my notes backwards. I kind of moved them around and stuff. That was the FU watches. You got that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Do we have any good questions?
I have a question. I have a question for Eric and you, Anthony, really, in terms of Miami. I'm going to fly down to Miami early. I'm going to get down there Thursday night with Adrian. I'm going to go do some shopping at Seabolt, stop by and see you, Eric. Then I got to go out to Boca and Aventura to do a little bit of shopping on Saturday. And Sunday is free. Are you guys going to be in town?
I'll be here.
You guys, when are you coming down, Anthony?
Actually, because of the last show and my flight situation getting all screwed up with weather, I think I'm coming 2 days early, so I may fly in Saturday midday or so because I want to enjoy, business for me. I came in and I had to go straight to the show, and then after the show was over, I left. I didn't really get to enjoy Miami, so I'll come in on Saturday if you guys want to do something on Sunday.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
plan.
What weekend is that again?
What?
What weekend is that again?
24th.
23rd. The show is 24 and 25, so it's going to be the weekend of the 19th through the 20th through the 22nd.
The show is Monday the 24th and Tuesday the 25th, so we're going to be in there Thursday the 20th.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is get it on Thursday night. I'll give you a call, Eric, and then we'll go from there. One of the things I wanted to say is that, look, it's very hard to, get a live show going like this. I think the next one we'll do on your channel in a couple of weeks, Eric.
Yes.
And we'll finish. Then we'll go to Nico's channel. I would love to do the same thing on Paul's channel. One of the things that I hate seeing is the YouTube algorithm messing with Paul's channel late. I've seen that all of a sudden he gets all these videos, they're getting all these views, and all of a sudden it drops because YouTube changed the algorithm one way or the other. So I think all of us getting onto Paul's channels and Archie channels the same was going to help everybody that's on this panel. I love the fact that it's 4 o'clock in the morning and Archie is drinking whiskey. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I did. So cheers to you, Archie. I mean, literally, he got up at 3:30 a.m. and started downing whiskey, But Anthony, I think we'll wrap this up here, right? I would love to see the audience comment below and make suggestions. Listen, the key is going to be market update, but as you can imagine, when you get so many different characters in the room, we tend to go off topic. We tend to chat with each other and shoot the shit as we speak. But I think that's what makes it for a great show, boys. I hope you all agree.
I agree.
Been a pleasure and an honor. Thanks for having us.
Paul, Archie, it was a pleasure meeting you guys. We'll see each other soon.
Take care.
On camera.
On camera. Well, actually, wait. Before we go, Paul, once all this stuff opens back up, I didn't forget, I'm still coming to your show. So I'm hoping that when all things open back up, perhaps we can give your audience at your trade shows more than what they bargained for, and we'll get a few of these guys that are on this panel to come down there and do the show with you. I just can't wait for you guys to open back up, because till this day, believe it or not, when we made the announcement that I'm coming to one of your shows in London, till this day, people hit me up and asking when I'm coming, and all I'm telling them, as soon as Paul gives me the green light, I'll be there.
They want to see you guys. Thanks ever so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, have a good night, have a a good morning, have a good evening.
Take care, everyone. See you, Eric. See you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, guys.